So welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the Sargent Shaw patent hand planes. So I recently received this Sargent Shaw patent number 9 in the mail. It's the second number 9 that I've owned. This one I've had for a little while. I have had others in the past, but when I received this one, I thought it'd be pretty cool to have a conversation about it, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there or gals out there that haven't seen one of these yet. So this is a Sargent, and it was manufactured starting in 1910, but there was a prototype made a couple of years before that. That was known as a 6408. Those are extremely rare. If you ever find one, you want to snatch onto it. The intent on this was to allow you to move that frog forward or back without removing the blade. You can see there's a screw there. I guess I can tighten that back up. Probably ought to do that. How did that happen anyhow? So that screw that I'm tightening right there, it needs to be just tight enough to allow that frog to move. Then these two screws back here get to be loosened up when the blade is on. So we loosen these two and move the frog adjustment screw, which is basically the same theory as a Stanley frog adjustment screw. We move that, we turn that. As you can see, I got that other one. I don't know, I guess maybe it's all the way. I was doing the wrong way. So now I'm moving it forward. And this was designed and patented prior to the Bedrock flat side change, where they also said you could change the frog, adjust the frog without removing the blade. The advantage to this one, according to Sargent, is this frog moves straight. So theoretically, we can move that frog and never affect the depth of the blade. So if we got the blade set just right, but we want a tighter mouth, we move it forward and the blade is still already set. So I was going to take this apart just to kind of show you how it comes apart. There's 3 screws, one inside the frog and these 2 outside. And that allows us to remove that frog. You can see it's kind of a unique frog. It's good and heavy. It's got some mass to it, which makes it a little bit heavier. That's what the base looks like. See the number 9 there? Now they made these all the way up to a size 24. So they made the jack, the 4, and the joiner. And then put them back together, it does the same. Now you can see this is a one of the first ones. So it's got a two-piece adjuster that's common with the Type 3 and the 400 series Sargents. So this one is an earlier one. Now these are obviously a lot scarcer than the Bedrock. They weren't made. There wasn't as many made. So they are a little bit harder to find. So you see a lot more woodworkers using Bedrock, obviously, because they're easier to find. Now, are they better or worse? I don't know. I'm of the firm believer that once a hand plane is tuned, they all work pretty well. It's pretty hard to beat just a standard old Bailey or standard old Sargent 400 or Miller's Fall, anything for that matters. They all kind of work as they should once they're tuned properly and sharpened and all of that. So now the assignment is going to be to determine if this nice VBM number 9 actually will allow us to move this frog ahead and not readjust the blade. Let's see how well that works. So I've got this somewhat ready. As you can see, it's taking some pretty nice shavings. So now I'm gonna loosen these 2 screws. I probably should have started this back further because it's still, as you can see, it's got, hopefully you can see, a reasonably tight mount. But let's tighten that up a little bit more because we want this to be don't let it go too tight. I won't be able to get shavings through there. Of course, I guess we could go the other way too and open it and see how that works. This might be too tight. Let's try it. Look at that, huh? I think I'm a little bit too tight, so it's pushing hard. And I haven't waxed the sole on this yet, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna just open this right up. You know what I did? I went too far because now it's hitting the back of the mouth. So I'm going to have to fine tune it. As usual, there's a little trial and error to go with it. And it's still taking some pretty decent fine shaving. Use a little tweaking, but it's pretty close still. Oop, going the wrong way. So I think we verified that that works. Now, what does that mean for real life planing? Well, not a whole lot, because I don't think many woodworkers move that frog very often, especially once they get that plane set. So I'm not sure this whole, well, I am sure this whole moving the blade or the frog forward or back without removing the blade is kind of a marketing gimmick. Would it be useful at times? I suppose. Would I want to pay extra to get that convenience? I don't think so. I mean, let's face it, we got to remove that blade to sharpen it every so often, so does it really make that much difference? I'll leave that to you. But we did prove that we can slide that blade ahead and be pretty close to where it was when we started. I do like the Sargent Shaw patents, and I am going to keep these sharp and use them from time to time, but I think it's not going to make a whole lot of difference in the end game. A couple other things worth mentioning on the Shaw patent. So here's the base, right? And you notice this thick pad right here. That thick pad started with the VBM plane. So one of the ways you can tell a Sargent base, if it's a 1910 or later, or VBM or later, is whether or not it has that thick pad that the frog can sit on. So when we put this frog in there, where do we want that frog to be? And this is open to interpretation, I guess. I think interpretation is the right word. Excuse me. If we slide that frog too much forward, it's going to leave that overhang. So, would that cause chatter? Well, maybe in certain situations. But how did Sargent combat that? Well, if you look at the blade, this blade is 7/64 thick. Now, a Stanley, I believe, is 5/64, roughly around there. So, this is even thicker, I believe, than a Hawk. So, will it counteract it? Again, it depends, right? It depends on the wood. It depends on the guy pushing the plane. It depends on how sharp this is. It depends on where the chip breaker is in relationship to the end of the blade. There's a lot of it depends. So the only way you're going to know if you like this and if it works for the way that you want it to work is get one and try it. I like it. I took these two this morning and sharpened them up, polished the end of my chip breaker, and you saw the shavings. There's no flattening. They're already flat. I don't have to worry about flattening the frog on a Sargent typically. If memory serves me correct, I've had one Sargent plane that I had to flatten things on, and that was a 407. I don't know what happened to that plane, but and again, it's all a personal preference. And as you guys know, I like Sargent, so I hope this this was entertaining, at least informational. I'm probably gonna do another video on how I'll clean this up. I'm just gonna clean them up. I don't know, maybe I'll just oil them. We'll see. Anyhow, that's about it for today. I'm going to put these all back together and go back inside where it's a little bit warmer.